The vast observation deck of Stellaris Station offered a panoramic view of the galaxy's most breathtaking nebula, a swirling mass of purple and blue gases that had drawn travelers from across the stars for centuries. Yet Alara Nix barely noticed the celestial display as she paced the empty chamber, her iridescent skin flickering between shades of blue, a sign of extreme distress among the Vashiri. 3 days, just 3 standard days remained before the ritual of severance would strip her of everything, her home, her rights, her very identity. The death of her husband Torin 6 days ago had started the merciless countdown that all Vashiri widows faced. Remarry within 9 days or face permanent exile to Terrace, the frozen moon where temperatures never rose above freezing and where most banished souls survived less than a year. An archaic law, but one the Vashiri Council upheld with unwavering conviction. A widow without protection threatened the careful balance of their hierarchical society, they claimed. Unmarried females were dangerous anomalies in the Vashiri's rigid social structure. Alara stopped her packing and pressed her six-fingered hand against the transparent aluminum viewing port. Her reflection showed the luminescent markings along her temples pulsing with anxiety, the delicate gill-like structures on her neck fluttering with each rapid breath. Sector 7 requires engineering assistance, announced the station's automated system, breaking her reverie. Human specialist Dominic Reese, please report to the primary coolant junction. Alara's head snapped up. A human, the station had recently begun accepting non-Vashiri workers to help maintain its aging systems, despite protests from traditionalists. She had avoided the newcomers, finding their pink skin and rounded features unsettling. But now, she found him easily enough. Dominic Reese stood out among the tall, slender Vashiri technicians, shorter, broader, with rich brown skin and hands that moved with practiced precision as he calibrated a pressure valve. Alara watched from the corridor junction, gathering her courage. The shameful nature of her request made her inner light dim with embarrassment. "Excuse me," she finally said, stepping into view, "Engineer Reese." The human turned, revealing warm brown eyes that widened slightly at her appearance. Most off-worlders reacted this way to their first close encounter with a Vashiri. "That's me," he said with a quick smile. "Can I help you?" "I require a private conversation," Alara said, her universal translator giving her words a formal tone that didn't convey her desperation. "It is a matter of some urgency." Dominic glanced at his diagnostic tool, then nodded. "I'm about finished here. There's a maintenance alcove down the corridor that should be empty." The small room was little more than a closet with a bench and terminal, but it offered privacy. Alara shut the door behind them and faced the human with as much dignity as she could muster. "I am Alara Nix, widow of Torin Vex," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I have 3 days before I am exiled to Terrace for failing to secure a new marriage bond." Dominic's expression showed confusion, then concern. "I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm not sure I understand." "Marry me?" Alara blurted, her skin flushing a bright violet with shame. "I know it's improper to ask so directly, but I have no choice. I'll serve your needs, keep your quarters, provide whatever companionship you desire. Just don't let them send me away." The human's eyes widened and he took a step back. "I'm sorry, what? You want to marry me, but we've just met." "It needn't be permanent," Alara said quickly, her luminescent markings pulsing with her rapid heartbeat. "Once the danger has passed, we can separate quietly. No one from your world need ever know." "This is about the most unusual job perk I've ever been offered," Dominic said, running a hand through his short black hair. "Why me? Surely there are Vashiri males who—" "All unsuitable or unwilling," Alara interrupted. "I've tried. My husband's death was politically complicated. No Vashiri will risk association with me now." She stepped closer, placing her hand on his forearm. "Please, I have nowhere else to turn." Dominic stared at the alien woman before him, her skin shimmering with what he now recognized as anxiety. When he'd accepted the engineering position on Stellaris Station, he'd expected technical challenges, cultural differences, but not a marriage proposal within his first month. "Let me understand this correctly," he said, keeping his voice low. "If you don't remarry in 3 days, they'll exile you to an ice moon where you'll likely die." Alara nodded, her luminescent markings dimming. "The ritual of severance is ancient but absolute. A widow without protection threatens the social order, or so our traditions claim." "That's barbaric," Dominic muttered. "It is our way," she replied simply. "For millennia, it ensured family lineages remained intact and resources properly distributed. But now," she trailed off, looking away. "But now you're caught in an outdated tradition with deadly consequences," he finished for her. Before Dominic could respond further, the door to the maintenance alcove slid open. A tall Vashiri male stood there, his skin patterns glowing an intimidating red. His eyes narrowed at the sight of them together. "Sister Bond," he said coldly to Alara, "you dishonor Torin's memory with such desperate measures." Alara's posture stiffened. "Krell, this is a private conversation." "Nothing involving my brother's widow remains private," Krell replied. His gaze shifted to Dominic. "Human, whatever she has promised you, know that she deceives. Her family's disgrace will soon be complete." After Krell departed, Alara explained that as Torin's brother, Krell stood to inherit everything if she was exiled, including valuable patents her husband had developed. Dominic paced the small space. "I need time to think." "Time is the one thing I don't have," Alara whispered. Later that evening, Dominic researched Vashiri customs in his quarters. The marriage rituals were complex but not impossible for an off-worlder. What troubled him were the political implications. His employer, the Galactic Engineering Corps, might view such entanglements as compromising his position. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Alara, carrying what appeared to be technical schematics. "I thought you should know what you're potentially saving," she said, unrolling the diagrams on his table. "These are improvements to the station's propulsion system that Torin and I were developing before his death. Krell wants them but can't understand them. I was the true engineer in our partnership, though Vashiri custom forbade acknowledging a female's technical contributions." Dominic studied the elegant designs with growing amazement. "These modifications could increase efficiency by 30% at least," he said, fingers tracing the intricate pathways. "You designed these." For the first time, Alara's markings pulsed with pride rather than fear. "I did." Their conversation shifted to technical matters, and Dominic saw beyond her desperation to her brilliant mind. When she finally left, he had made his decision. The next morning, Dominic submitted the marriage application to the Vashiri Council, causing immediate controversy. Station Administrator Javan summoned them both to her office. "This is highly irregular," the elderly Vashiri stated, her markings a skeptical yellow. "No precedent exists for human Vashiri unions." "Yet no law forbids it," Alara countered. "It will require special dispensation," Administrator Javan replied. "The ceremony must occur before the 9th day ends. I cannot guarantee approval will come in time." As they left the office, Dominic noticed Alara's trembling hands. Impulsively, he took one in his. Her skin was cooler than human temperature, slightly textured like fine silk. "I won't let them exile you," he promised, surprising himself with his conviction. That night, Dominic awoke to an emergency alert. Somehow, the station's life support systems were failing in the residential section, precisely where most council members resided. As chief engineer on duty, he worked through the night to restore proper functioning, all while wondering if this accident was Krell's attempt to delay the council's decision on their marriage application. By morning, with systems restored, Dominic found Alara waiting outside his quarters, her skin glowing a soft pink he hadn't seen before. "You saved many lives last night," she said. "The council has noticed. Our application has been expedited for review." Their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. The recognition that their arrangement of convenience was becoming something neither had anticipated. The preparation chamber for Vashiri marriages was traditionally filled with family members offering blessings and advice. For Alara, the room stood empty save for an elderly female attendant who adjusted the ceremonial robes with obvious disapproval. "A human," the attendant muttered. "Generations of pure lineage ended." Alara's markings flickered with irritation. "My lineage would end regardless, at least this way I survive." In the adjacent chamber, Dominic studied a holographic guide to the ceremony. The ritual seemed straightforward enough: an exchange of vows, the binding of hands with ceremonial cords, the sharing of nutrient water. What concerned him were the private rites that would follow. An incoming message disrupted his study. It was from his supervisor at the Galactic Engineering Corps. "Reese, explain this marriage report immediately. Potential conflict of interest. Response required before proceeding." Dominic sighed. Corporate bureaucracy could doom Alara as surely as Vashiri tradition. A soft knock preceded Alara's entrance. In her ceremonial attire, flowing robes of deep blue with luminescent threads that complemented her skin patterns, she was breathtaking. "There's a problem," Dominic admitted, showing her the message. "I feared this," she said. "Your career is important but not worth someone's life," he interrupted. Composing a quick response explaining the humanitarian basis for his actions, he sent it with a silent hope it would suffice. While waiting for a reply, they found themselves alone with 2 days remaining before the deadline. Dominic suggested they use the time to learn more about each other. In the station's arboretum, surrounded by plants from a dozen worlds, Alara revealed how she had defied convention by studying engineering, only to have her work attributed to her husband. Torin was kind, she explained. He acknowledged my contributions privately but could not challenge tradition publicly. Our marriage was arranged, but we found respect, if not passion. Dominic shared stories of Earth, describing oceans and mountains to someone who had spent her life on space stations and ships. As he spoke, he noticed her markings pooling in patterns he now recognized as intense interest and pleasure. "Your world sounds like freedom," she said wistfully. Their conversation was interrupted by a station-wide announcement. "All personnel, prepare for emergency systems diagnostic. Temporary power fluctuations expected." When no fluctuations occurred, Dominic grew suspicious. Accessing a terminal, he discovered someone had used his access codes to initiate unnecessary maintenance procedures that disrupted the council's voting session on their marriage application. "Krell," Alara said, her markings darkening with anger. "He's buying time, hopping to run out the clock." That evening, they worked together in Dominic's quarters, her engineering expertise complementing his practical knowledge as they designed countermeasures for any further sabotage. Their hands occasionally touched over diagrams, lingering longer each time. "In Vashiri custom," Alara explained softly during a pause in their work, "true marriage is marked by the synchronization of bioluminescent patterns between mates. It happens naturally when there is genuine connection." Dominic noticed how her markings pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Is that happening with us?" he asked. Before she could answer, his communication panel chimed. The Galactic Engineering Corps had responded. His explanation was accepted, with the caveat that all technical collaborations with his Vashiri spouse must be documented and reported. Relief washed over them both. Yet as their eyes met in celebration, something deeper than relief passed between them, a recognition that their arrangement had evolved beyond mere convenience or survival. Later, walking Alara to her quarters, Dominic found himself saying, "I'm glad I came to Stellaris Station." "As am I," she replied, her markings glowing a deep rose color he hadn't seen before. Impulsively, she reached up and pressed her cool palm against his cheek, a traditionally intimate gesture among her people. Dominic covered her hand with his, feeling something impossible taking root between them, something that transcended species and circumstance. With just 30 hours remaining before Alara's deadline, Dominic was summoned to the station administrator's office. The elderly Vashiri's markings pulsed with concern as she activated a secure communication channel. "Serious allegations have been made against you, Engineer Reese," Administrator Javan said, gesturing to the screen where Krell's face appeared. "This human is not who he claims," Krell stated flatly. "Our intelligence indicates he accessed restricted Vashiri defense schematics. He is likely a corporate spy using my brother's widow to gain technological advantages." Dominic's protest died on his lips as Krell displayed records showing Dominic's access codes had indeed been used to view classified files he had never seen. "Your marriage application is suspended pending investigation," Administrator Javan announced. "Security will escort you to confined quarters." Alara learned of Dominic's detention while working in the engineering bay. Without hesitation, she abandoned her post and raced to the security section, demanding to see him. "This is Krell's doing," she insisted to the guards. "He fabricated evidence to prevent our union." "The evidence appears conclusive," the senior guard replied impassively. "Then let me speak with my intended," Alara demanded, invoking an ancient Vashiri rite that allowed communion between betrothed couples facing separation. In Dominic's temporary holding cell, Alara found him packing anxiously. "I didn't access those files," he said immediately. "Someone used my codes." "I know," she interrupted. "Krell has orchestrated this entire situation." Her markings pulsed rapidly as she explained her theory. "This isn't just about inheritance. Torin discovered corruption in the station's governance before his death, contracts manipulated, resources diverted. He was preparing to expose those responsible." "And you think Krell was involved?" "I believe Torin's death wasn't the accident it appeared to be," she whispered, her markings dimming with grief and fear. "The same people who silenced him now fear what I might know, or what I might share with an outsider like you." Dominic absorbed this information with growing alarm. But why go through this elaborate scheme with the marriage laws? Why not simply, he stopped, unwilling to complete the thought. "Direct action against me would raise questions," Alara explained. But if I'm legally exiled, my death on Terrace would be unremarkable, just another widow who couldn't survive the harsh conditions. Their time together was cut short by a security alert, unauthorized access detected in the central server core. Despite his confinement, Dominic's engineering expertise was required. Under guard, he accompanied a security team to investigate. In the server room, they discovered sophisticated data mining programs extracting technological secrets for transmission to an unknown location. Working quickly, Dominic traced the origin of the breach, finding to his shock that it came from Krell's private terminal. Meanwhile, Alara had retreated to her quarters to retrieve something vital. A secure data crystal Torren had hidden before his death. Accessing its contents revealed evidence of Krell's conspiracy, communications with off-station interests, plans to take control of Stellaris through financial manipulation, and most damning, discussions about eliminating Torren when he threatened to expose them. With less than 12 hours remaining before her deadline, Alara made a desperate move. Using her intimate knowledge of the station's systems, she overrode communication protocols and broadcast Torren's evidence to every terminal on Stellaris station, including those in the council chamber where Dominic's case was being heard. The revelation caused immediate chaos. Security forces moved to detain Krell, who attempted to flee. Dominic, now cleared of all charges, raced to find Alara. He found her in the observation deck where they had first spoken of their arrangement, her skin glowing with the aftermath of emotional turmoil. Without words, he took her hands in his. "I'm free," he said simply, "and Krell is detained." "But the deadline approaches," she reminded him. "The council may not reconvene in time to approve our application." Dominic pulled her closer. "Then we'll find another way. I won't let you face exile, not now, not ever." Alara's markings pulsed in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. "This began as necessity," she whispered, "but it has become something else entirely, hasn't it?" Instead of answering with words, Dominic did something he had been thinking about for days. He gently pressed his lips to hers in the human tradition of kissing. After a moment of surprise, Alara responded, her cool skin warming against his as her markings glowed with an intensity that illuminated the darkened chamber. The final hours before Alara's deadline passed in a blur of activity. With Krell's conspiracy exposed, the council reconvened in emergency session to address both the corruption scandal and the pending marriage application. Dominic and Alara stood before them, hands joined, awaiting judgment. Administrator Javan spoke first, her aged markings pulsing with formal dignity. "Recent events have revealed deceptions that threatened our station's integrity. The council acknowledges the service you both rendered in uncovering this plot." A younger council member added, "However, the matter of your unprecedented union remains. Our laws were not written with interspecies marriages in mind." Alara stepped forward. "Yet nothing in our laws explicitly forbids such unions. I stand before you with my chosen mate, requesting recognition before my time expires." The council chambers fell silent as members communicated through subtle patterns of light, a form of Vashiri discourse impenetrable to outsiders. Finally, Administrator Javan nodded. "The application is approved," she announced. "The ceremony may proceed immediately." The traditional bonding ritual had been adapted for their unique circumstances. In the station's central atrium, beneath the artificial sky dome where stars shone through, Dominic and Alara exchanged vows. He in carefully practiced Vashiri, she in newly learned English phrases. When they bound their hands with the ceremonial cords, his warm brown skin against her iridescent blue, something unexpected happened. Alara's bioluminescent markings began pulsing in perfect synchronization with Dominic's heartbeat, visible to all Vashiri present. A murmur went through the crowd. "The synchronization," whispered onlookers, "it's genuine." What had begun as arrangement had transformed into something their society considered sacred, a true biological and spiritual bond between mates. The witness officiating the ceremony appeared momentarily flustered before continuing with increased reverence. After the public ceremony came the private ritual in quarters prepared for them. Traditional furnishings had been adapted for human comfort alongside Vashiri aesthetics, symbolic of their union's bridge between worlds. "I never expected this," Alara admitted as they entered their new shared space. "When I approached you that day, I sought only survival." Dominic took her hands, marveling at how natural it now felt. "And I never expected to find someone who challenges everything I thought I knew about connection." Their first night together as a married couple was a careful, tender exploration of differences and similarities. His warmth complemented her coolness. Her luminescence cast gentle patterns across his skin as they discovered each other with growing wonder and desire. 3 days later, the newly married couple stood in Administrator Javan's office, presenting a revolutionary proposal. Dominic had officially requested an extended contract with Stellaris Station, while Alara had been appointed special liaison for technological development, the first female Vashiri to hold such a position in the station's history. Furthermore, Alara explained, displaying detailed plans, we propose modifications to the ancient exile laws. Widows should be granted a transition period of 1 standard year to establish independence, with vocational training and housing security. Administrator Javan studied the proposal. Such changes would face significant opposition from traditionalists. Change always does, Dominic replied, but your society cannot evolve if it continues discarding valuable members. As they left the administrator's office, they passed a group of Vashiri females who nodded respectfully to Alara, widows who had begun looking to her example as a path toward their own liberation. That evening, standing together on the observation deck where their journey had begun, they watched the swirling nebula that surrounded Stellaris Station. Its gases shifted constantly, forming new patterns yet maintaining its essential nature, much like the transformation of their relationship. My people have a saying, Dominic said, holding her close. The stars may chart our course, but we choose how to navigate. Alara's markings pulsed with contentment as she completed the thought. And sometimes, the most unexpected course leads exactly where we're meant to be. As her luminescence synchronized once more with his heartbeat, they stood together at the threshold of possibility, two beings from distant worlds who had found in each other not just salvation, but home. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.